So the story is on KTAR.com. Firearms, car crashes among the leading causes of death among children, according to this report. I do see, and in this, there's a lot of quotes in here from Will Humble, who's the executive director of the Arizona Public Health Association. I like Mr. Humble. I've talked to him a number of times. But what's interesting is there's a bit of a difference here. The report found that firearms are the leading cause of death among those ages 15 to 17, second most preventable deaths behind car crashes. 68% of children lost their lives to firearms last year. That is a 170% increase over the past 10 years. 44% of those deaths were caused by suicide. The rest were considered homicide, but 100% of them are found to be preventable. So the number of people, I think it was 68 kids, 68 Arizona children. Now, that's a big number. But 68%, 44% of them were caused by suicide. So the executive director of the Public Health Association said that if you got a teenager, you should remove the firearms from your home. So get rid of the firearm. But what's interesting is the other leading causes of death among children, if you're 5 to 14 years old, it was motor vehicle crashes. So they don't recommend that you get rid of your vehicle or don't bring kids in the car. They say you should put them in the back seat, put them in car seats where it's appropriate, put them in seat belts. They should be in the back seat when they're very young, keep them away from the airbags, all of those things, which is a very reasonable thing to say. Firearms, get rid of them. Shouldn't have them in your house at all. Get rid of them. Not lock them up, not make sure they're secure, not any of those things. Get rid of them. They shouldn't be around kids. Shouldn't be around teenagers. Shouldn't even have them in the house when it comes to a vehicle. And people say, well, Mike, you have to have a vehicle to live. I understand. I'm talking about the mindset. When you, I guess that's why it bothers me. For the very young, 81 adolescents died in car crashes. So more kids died in car crashes than died from firearms. More kids died in car crashes than died from firearms. Of those, 49% did not have a seat restraint, and 43 were under the influence. Parents should not allow teen drivers to transport young siblings. He said younger siblings could be a distraction and young drivers lack experience on the road. Suffocating and drowning remain the leading cause of death among infants to 4-year-olds. 52 infants suffocated in 2023 and 31 drowned. So between the two of them, it was 84. I'm not trying to diminish anything. I think any child that dies, especially if a young person is at a point in their life where they feel suicidal, that is a horrible place to be. That tells us a big story of mental health in young people, the emotional strain, for whatever reason it is in this generation where we're seeing this. And for a moment, I want to be very serious. Suicide has touched the lives of my family as well. I saw it happen to my brother's best friend when my brother was 18 years old. His best friend committed suicide. It was unexpected. There were no warning signs whatsoever. It was a shock. His mother was a mental health counselor. It was just a shock. I still to this day could never even imagine what could have led to what happened to that young man and why he did it. But I walked through that whole thing with that family who was like family to us. And it was devastating. And there were hundreds of people at that young man's funeral. And I remember standing at the funeral and thinking, I wonder if this young man would have not done what he did if he knew he had this many people that loved him. And I don't think it would have changed anything. He was a popular kid. He was an athlete. He was going to school on a scholarship, an athletic scholarship, had everything going for him. And for whatever reason that night, he did what he did. But it was tragic, and it affected our family, and obviously his, but it affected our family directly for a long time. So I'm certainly not making light of suicide. I think it's tragic. But the idea that we're going to focus on the tool that was used to commit it, I don't think that's the right approach. Cars aren't to blame for car accident deaths. It's not having your child in the right place and not protecting them appropriately. I would say it's the same thing for firearms. That my stepdaughters were around guns the entire time I was married to their mother. We taught them to shoot. One of the things our family did together for a long time was go out at a time when you could up north off of Table Mesa Road, and we would go out there and shoot in the desert. And they learned to be proficient with firearms. My point is we should be looking at the cause of things. And I hope we do. It's a very fascinating story, and I hope you'll read it, because we always talk about our children being our biggest asset. And so we need to do more to protect them. If you can't always know the mental health of your child. You can't always know the mental position of where your child is. But you got to have an idea, and doing mental health checks and making sure you're checking in with your kids and all the things we can do to be a source of stability, and then to make it okay for them when they're not doing well, that if it's not you they're reaching out to, that there's a reasonable and responsible person that they can talk with, I think is such a huge part of growth, and letting kids know that it's okay to not be okay. But you've got to seek some help and do something about it. So go to KTAR.com, read the story. I'd love to hear what your response is.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.